In a quiet land thousands of years ago, under the soft glow of the evening sky, a young girl walked through the narrow streets of Nazareth. She was simple, humble, and unknown to the world. No royal crown rested on her head. No army protected her. Yet heaven itself had chosen her for the greatest mission in human history. Her name was Mary. Today, billions around the world know her as Mother Mary, the symbol of purity, faith, patience, and unconditional love. Her life was not filled with comfort or luxury. Instead, it was filled with challenges, sacrifices, tears, and unwavering trust in God. This is not just a story about a woman from history. This is a story about courage in difficult times, hope during darkness, and faith when everything seems impossible. Tonight, we journey through the untold story of Mother Mary, from her miraculous calling to the painful moments at the cross, and finally to the eternal legacy she left behind for humanity. Chapter 1: The Humble Beginning. Mary was born in Nazareth, a small village in ancient Israel. According to tradition, her parents were Joachim and Anne, faithful people who deeply loved God. From childhood, Mary was different. While other children spent their days playing freely, Mary was known for her gentle heart, kindness, and devotion. She loved prayer and spent time helping others. Her humility made people admire her. But no one could imagine the destiny waiting for her. Nazareth was not a famous city. It was poor and unnoticed by the powerful rulers of the world. Yet sometimes God chooses the smallest places to perform the greatest miracles. As Mary grew older, she became engaged to a carpenter named Joseph. Joseph was honest, hardworking, and kind. Together they dreamed of building a peaceful life. But heaven had another plan. Chapter 2: The Angel Appears. One ordinary day changed Mary's life forever. Mary was alone when suddenly a bright light filled the room. Before her stood an angel, the angel Gabriel. Fear gripped her heart, but the angel spoke gently. "Do not be afraid, Mary. You have found favor with God." Mary listened carefully as Gabriel revealed an unbelievable message. "You will conceive and give birth to a son, and you shall call him Jesus." In those times, such a situation could lead to public shame and punishment. Joseph loved Mary deeply, but confusion filled his mind. He decided to quietly end the engagement to protect her from disgrace. But one night, as Joseph slept, an angel appeared to him in a dream. "Joseph, son of David, do not be afraid to take Mary as your wife, because the child within her is from the Holy Spirit." The angel told him that the child would save people from their sins. When Joseph woke up, everything changed. He chose faith over fear. He stood beside Mary, protecting her during one of the most difficult moments of her life. Together, Mary and Joseph stepped into an uncertain future, guided only by trust in God. Chapter 4: The Journey to Bethlehem. As the time of Jesus' birth approached, the Roman emperor ordered a census. Everyone had to return to their ancestral towns. Joseph and Mary traveled from Nazareth to Bethlehem, a long and exhausting journey of nearly 90 miles. Mary was heavily pregnant. The roads were rough, dangerous, and cold. They traveled slowly, surrounded by uncertainty. Imagine the pain Mary endured during that difficult journey. Yet she never complained. When they finally arrived in Bethlehem, the town was crowded. Every inn was full. Joseph searched desperately for a place where Mary could rest, but no room was available. Finally, someone offered them shelter in a stable, a place where animals were kept. It was not a palace. It was not clean or comfortable. Yet in that humble stable, the greatest miracle in history was about to happen. Chapter 5: The Birth of Jesus. Under the quiet night sky, surrounded by animals and hay, Mary gave birth to Jesus. No kings attended the birth. No luxurious celebrations took place. Only Joseph stood beside her, offering support and love. Mary wrapped the baby Jesus in cloth and laid him in a manger. At that exact moment, heaven rejoiced. Angels appeared to shepherds in nearby fields, declaring, "Glory to God in the highest, and on earth peace to those on whom his favor rests." The shepherds hurried to Bethlehem and found the child exactly as the angels described. Later, wise men from the east followed a mysterious star that guided them to Jesus. They brought precious gifts: gold, frankincense, and myrrh. Mary watched quietly as strangers bowed before her child. Perhaps deep inside, she began realizing that her son truly was extraordinary. Chapter 6: A Mother's Love. Mary's life as a mother was filled with both joy and mystery. She watched Jesus grow from a baby into a young boy. She taught him prayers. She cared for him when he was sick or tired. She prepared meals and protected him like every loving mother. Yet there were moments that reminded her that Jesus belonged not only to her, but to the world. One day, when Jesus was 12 years old, Mary and Joseph traveled to Jerusalem for a religious festival. After the celebration ended, they began their journey home believing Jesus was with relatives. But suddenly they realized he was missing. Fear overwhelmed them. For 3 days they searched desperately through the crowded city. Finally, they found Jesus in the temple speaking with religious teachers. Everyone listening was amazed by his wisdom. Mary asked him, "Son, why have you treated us like this? Your father and I have been anxiously searching for you." Jesus replied, "Did you not know I must be about my Father's business?" Mary did not fully understand his words, but she treasured them in her heart. Chapter 7: The First Miracle. Years later, Jesus began his public ministry. One day, Mary attended a wedding in Cana with Jesus and his disciples. Chapter 8: The Growing Opposition. As Jesus traveled preaching love, forgiveness, and truth, many people followed him. The sick were healed, the blind received sight, the poor found hope. But not everyone welcomed his message. Religious leaders became jealous and angry. Crowds that once praised him slowly turned against him. Mary watched these events unfold with increasing concern. A mother's heart senses danger long before it arrives. She knew suffering was coming, yet she remained faithful. She stood silently beside her son through every storm. Chapter 9: The Painful Prophecy. Years earlier, when Jesus was still a baby, Mary and Joseph had taken him to the temple. There they met an old prophet named Simeon. Holding the baby Jesus in his arms, Simeon praised God and then looked directly at Mary. He spoke words that would stay with her forever. "A sword will pierce your own soul too." At the time, Mary may not have fully understood. But now, as opposition against Jesus grew stronger, those words returned to her heart. The prophecy of pain was slowly becoming reality. Chapter 10: The Last Supper. As the final days approached, tension filled Jerusalem. Jesus gathered his disciples for the Last Supper. Though Mary was not mentioned at the table, surely her heart was restless. Mothers often sense suffering before it arrives. That night, Jesus prayed in agony in the Garden of Gethsemane while his disciples struggled to stay awake. Soon soldiers arrived to arrest him. The betrayal had begun. When Mary heard the news, unimaginable fear must have filled her heart. Her beloved son, innocent and pure, was now treated like a criminal. Chapter 11: The Trial of Jesus. Jesus was dragged before religious leaders and Roman authorities. False accusations surrounded him. Crowds shouted angrily demanding his death. Mary watched helplessly as people mocked and insulted her son. The same people who once celebrated his miracles now cried, "Crucify him." Imagine the pain of a mother witnessing such cruelty. Every insult felt like a wound to her own heart. Yet Mary remained there. She did not run away. She stayed beside Jesus through the darkest moment of his life. Chapter 12: The Walk to Calvary. Jesus was forced to carry a heavy wooden cross through the streets of Jerusalem. His body was weak from beatings and torture. Blood covered his face. Crowds pushed and shouted around him. Some mocked him while others wept. Among them stood Mary. Their eyes met. No words were necessary. A mother's love spoke louder than language. Mary could not remove the cross from his shoulders. She could not stop the suffering, but her presence reminded Jesus that he was not alone. That silent moment between mother and son remains one of the most heartbreaking scenes in history. Chapter 13: At the Foot of the Cross. Finally, Jesus was crucified on Calvary. Nails pierced his hands and feet. The sky darkened. Pain and sorrow filled the air. Most disciples fled in fear. But Mary stayed. She stood at the foot of the cross watching her son suffer. No pain compares to a mother watching her child die. Yet even in unbearable agony, Jesus looked down at Mary with love. Seeing his disciple John nearby, Jesus said, "Woman, "Behold your son." Then to John he said, "Behold your mother." Even while dying, Jesus cared for his mother. Moments later, Jesus breathed his last breath. Mary's world shattered. The prophecy had been fulfilled. The sword had pierced her soul. Chapter 14: Silence and Grief. After Jesus' death, silence covered Jerusalem. The crowds disappeared. The celebrations ended. Only grief remained. Mary held the lifeless body of Jesus in her arms. The same arms that once carried him as a baby now held him after death. Artists throughout history have tried to capture this heartbreaking moment. It symbolizes not only sorrow, but also unconditional love. Mary could not understand why such suffering had happened. Yet somewhere deep inside, faith still burned. She remembered God's promises. She waited. Chapter 15: The Resurrection. 3 days later, everything changed. The tomb was empty. Jesus had risen from the dead. Fear turned into joy. Darkness turned into hope. Though the Bible does not describe Mary's direct encounter with the risen Jesus, many believe he appeared to her. Imagine that moment. The son she watched die now stood alive before her. Every tear suddenly carried meaning. Every painful sacrifice became part of God's greater plan. Death had not won. Love had triumphed. Chapter 16: Mother of Believers. After Jesus returned to heaven, Mary remained with the disciples. She prayed with them and encouraged the growing Christian community. Though she had experienced unimaginable pain, she continued living with faith and humility. Mary never sought power or fame. She simply remained devoted to God. Over centuries, millions began seeing her as a spiritual mother, someone who understands human suffering, fear, and hope. Churches were built in her honor across the world. Artists painted her image. Songs were written about her compassion and purity. But beyond all titles and traditions, Mary's greatest strength remained her faith. Chapter 17: Lessons from Mother Mary. The story of Mother Mary teaches timeless lessons. 1. Faith during uncertainty. Mary accepted God's plan without knowing the future. She trusted even when life became difficult. 2. Strength in suffering. She endured rejection, fear, and heartbreak with remarkable courage. 3. Humility. Despite being chosen for an extraordinary mission, Mary remained humble throughout her life. 4. Unconditional love. Her love for Jesus never changed, not during miracles, not during suffering, and not even at the cross. 5. Hope beyond pain. Mary's story reminds us that suffering is not always the end. Sometimes hope rises after the darkest moments. Chapter 18: Mother Mary in today's world. Even today, people across cultures and nations turn to Mother Mary during difficult times. Some pray to her for comfort. Others admire her as a symbol of motherhood and sacrifice. In hospitals, churches, homes, and quiet moments of despair, her image often represents peace and hope. Whether someone is religious or not, Mary's life continues inspiring humanity because her emotions were deeply human. She experienced fear. She experienced confusion. She experienced loss. Yet she continued believing. That is why her story still touches millions of hearts centuries later. Chapter 19: The Eternal Legacy. Empires have risen and fallen. Kings and rulers have been forgotten. But the name of Mary continues living in hearts around the world. Why? Because true greatness is not built on power or wealth. It is built on love, sacrifice, and faith. Mary never led armies. She never ruled nations. Yet her quiet courage changed human history forever. Her story reminds humanity that even ordinary people can become part of extraordinary plans. Final conclusion. The story of Mother Mary is more than history. It is a story of faith stronger than fear, a story of love stronger than pain, and a story of hope stronger than death. From the humble streets of Nazareth to the sorrowful hill of Calvary, Mary walked a path filled with sacrifice and trust in God. She laughed as a mother, she cried as a mother, she suffered as a mother, and through it all, she remained faithful. Perhaps that is why the world still remembers her after thousands of years. Because deep inside every human heart is